Guadalupe River State Park was created to provide river access to the public. What's so unusual about this park is that we're very close to San Antonio. We're just 30 miles. We're very close to Austin, just an hour and a half south. And yet you can come here in a short amount of time and be completely removed from the city life. So you really accomplish the outdoor experience very, very quickly.
Guadalupe River is also the only state park with a state natural area right next door.
Between Honey Creek and Guadalupe, we have nearly 5,000 acres of pristine post oak savanna. Now, the difference between Honey Creek State Natural Area and Guadalupe River State Park is that we manage the state natural area for its cultural and natural resources. You can only come into Honey Creek under experimental permit if you're doing research here, or we have Saturday morning guided tours that are from 9 to 11 a.m.
This is probably the reason you came. This is Honey Creek. It's never stopped flowing that we know of.
We're going to try this fossil right here. See this round one right here?
We have an agreement with the Northeast Independent School District in San Antonio, and we've got a third grade outdoor science program that goes on here during fall and also during the spring. They actually get to come out here and see and feel and touch, and they get to observe nature right here in real life. It's here for them.
A special trail over in the state park welcomes visitors with hooves as well as feet.
This is just the second time we've been out here, but we really enjoyed it the first time. We came a week ago, so we're going to keep a regular weekly trail ride session going. It's certainly very peaceful, getting away from the city and noise, and it's quiet and beautiful, and it's a way to relax with your horse.
Many different features draw people to Guadalupe River State Park. Most come for the river.
A lot of families come out with young children and have them play and wade along the river. It really appeals to a lot of different people and a lot of different ages.
For more information about Texas state parks and historic sites, visit our website or call 1-800-792-1112.
Hi, Ken here. Drought can take a serious toll on plants and animals. When cells are deprived of water, they shrink, collapsing upon themselves, and without water, cell biochemistry may malfunction. However, some plants, like the resurrection fern, can survive extreme drought. They can lose as much as 95% of their water content. This is an amazing superpower. Most plants and animals can't tolerate more than 10 to 20% water loss. 15% water loss is usually fatal in human beings. The resurrection fern gets its name because it can survive extensive periods of drought by curling up its fronds and appearing dead. The curled leaves dry with their bottom sides upwards. In this way, they can rehydrate quickly when the rains come, as most of the water is absorbed on the bottom side of the leaves. When drying, the plant produces special proteins called dihydrins near the cell walls. Dihydrins act as a lubricant, allowing the cell walls to fold in a way that can be reversed. Scientists are studying how this works to possibly bioengineer this ability in other plants so that they can better tolerate drought. It may be possible to design materials with a similar elastic response, such as mobile, deployable structures that are transported dry but deploy using moisture uptake. Structures with shape memory. Let's watch a time-lapse movie of the resurrection fern coming back to life. 2.5 hours are shown in 60 seconds. The fern is an epiphyte or air plant, which means that it gets its nutrients from the air and water. It clings onto tree branches, logs, and rocks, but not as a parasite. It attaches to objects only for support, to be in the best position for exposure to sunlight and to collect water. Like all ferns, the resurrection fern does not reproduce by fruits or seeds, but uses spores instead. The spores are found in clusters called sori on the bottom of the blades. The plant is native to tropical and subtropical regions in the Americas and Africa. Indigenous peoples historically have recognized the significance of the plant. It has been used, for example, as a diuretic, a remedy for heart problems, and as a treatment for infections. Recent medical research is confirming some of these folklore reports and has shown that extracts from the fern have antiarrhythmic cardiac properties. Check out the information written below to learn more about the resurrection fern and its amazing superpowers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.
We're all proud to call Kendall County home. Our communities are thriving and growing, but most of this beautiful semi-arid landscape is far from large reservoirs and public water systems. The majority of us depend on groundwater as our primary source of water for drinking, cooking, taking care of our homes and businesses, and working the land. Fortunately, the geological structure of this area supplies residents with naturally filtered, fresh, clean groundwater, but it is not an unlimited supply. Kendall County, like many areas in Texas, frequently experiences droughts that can seriously limit the supply of groundwater. That's why the Cow Creek Groundwater Conservation District was formed in 1999, for the purpose of conserving, preserving, protecting, and preventing the waste of groundwater from the aquifers in Kendall County. This extremely important task is becoming even more critical due to a rapid expansion of land use and a growing population, which is expected to double in Kendall County within the next 40 years. The added demand, combined with recurring drought conditions, is making it increasingly difficult for area wells to produce all the water that is needed, evidenced by the fact that some wells in the county have periodically gone dry. The pending severity of our groundwater situation can be difficult to understand when we hear from nearby San Antonio that they are experiencing favorable water conditions. But in reality, our situation is very different as we draw our water from a completely different aquifer system. Because of the complexity of Kendall County's rock structures and aquifers, our groundwater is compartmentalized, more limited, and takes longer to replenish. Kendall County can be prone to drought conditions even when nearby areas have plenty of water. In order for our community to determine workable and fair water management solutions, we must start by making sure everyone understands the underlying geological structure of the Trinity Aquifer, its relation to surface water features, and withdrawal and recharge processes. Most importantly, we hope to foster a greater understanding of how our usage of groundwater from this complicated aquifer system may or may not affect our neighbors' water supply. Let's begin by looking at the origins of groundwater. As rain falls on the surface, a small amount of it seeps into the earth, passing through porous layers of rock. Water can also migrate downward more quickly through cracks, crevices, and sinkholes. The downward movement continues until the water is trapped by layers of clay or non-permeable dense rock, which causes the water to saturate and collect and create underground aquifers. These may range in size from microscopic to large caverns. Often people think aquifers are extremely large, continuous underground pools that cover many square miles. This is true of some aquifers, such as the Edwards Aquifer beneath San Antonio. In these situations, the entire aquifer's water level is quickly recharged by rainfall anywhere across the entire area, so everyone shares equally in the sum total of replenished groundwater. But this is not the situation in the Trinity Aquifer system. The Trinity system comprises aquifers of different permeabilities that have been created by a complicated rock structure with numerous layers and variations in composition and density, and therefore variations in permeability. Permeability is the measure of the rock's ability to allow water to flow through it. So rainfall is not shared equally by all residents and landowners of Kendall County. Also, this kind of aquifer system requires scientists to gather much more detailed information to create a comprehensive understanding of the Trinity's complexity. The analysis the Cow Creek Groundwater Conservation District performs provides the insight necessary for good water management decisions in a geological environment full of complicating factors. For example, in a large pool-type aquifer, water resources can be monitored by simply taking periodic water depth measurements from several wells across the aquifer. But the total volume of water resources in the Trinity Aquifer cannot be easily measured because, as you can see here, our groundwater is dispersed across areas that have varying rock densities and permeabilities. This situation makes it very difficult to even compare water resources for wells that are in close proximity. One landowner may have plenty of draw from his well, while the neighbor's well may be in decline because they are drawing from different aquifers at different depths. Or consider this, you may have drilled your well to the same depth as your neighbor's wells on both sides of your property, but in a complicated geological environment like ours, you and one of your neighbors may be drawing from the same type aquifer, while your neighbor to the other side may be drawing water from an interval with different aquifer permeability characteristics. That's why it is difficult to know whether your neighbor's water usage is affecting your water supply or not. Still, another complicating issue has to do with the aquifer's recharge rate. In this location, the rock is more porous and the underlying aquifer recharges faster compared to the rate at which water seeps downward through denser rock in this location. This disparity makes it difficult to anticipate when individual sections of the Trinity Aquifer will recharge, and even more difficult to predict the ability of a given area of Kendall County to support growing demand. Another issue that complicates matters is the fact that groundwater can be a moving target as it migrates at different rates between aquifers, depending on the size of the connecting pathway and the porosity of the rock. But regardless of the density of the rock in any given area, it is important to understand that only 4 to 6% of the rainfall in Kendall County actually ever makes it into the Trinity Aquifer. The majority of rainfall we receive is absorbed by soil and plants, is lost to evaporation, or runs off to lower basins outside of the county. This fact helps shed perspective on how precious and limited our groundwater can be in times of drought or high demand. These are the reasons the Cow Creek Groundwater District continues to gather all of the available scientific information as a basis for the management processes. Now you should have a better perspective on how our ability to measure and manage our groundwater in Kendall County is dictated by a very complicated geological structure. You now understand that the groundwater available to residents and landowners across the county can vary greatly, depending on the portion of the Trinity Aquifer from which their wells draw and the speed at which different portions of the aquifer recharge. It is evident that when demand or pumping exceeds the recharge rate of an aquifer, the net result is a loss of available water for all residents and landowners who draw from that same aquifer. Some areas with lower permeability or tighter rock may see more dramatic effects of depletion than other areas of the county. You should also realize that drought conditions will affect landowners across the county differently. These issues will only be magnified as population growth and increased land use place ever greater demands upon our limited groundwater resources. Hopefully this information will arouse every landowner in Kendall County to become as educated as possible about the geological facts that affect their specific wells. More importantly, we hope that this knowledge will inspire landowners to work together to use resources more wisely and with greater respect for neighbors' needs and rights. The Cow Creek Groundwater Conservation District has presented these scientific facts to help support our community's ability to solve the increasingly critical groundwater management issues that face us now and in the future as we share a resource that belongs to all of us.
It's one of my favorite movies. Okay, to be fair, I haven't seen it since I was like 10. But besides Kevin Costner with gills, what would that kind of world actually look like? What happens when all the ice melts? Hi Hi everyone, Julia here for D News. Lots of headlines warn about melting ice. It's like a doomsday fanatic's fantasy. I mean, did you see Day After Tomorrow? But calm down, Hollywood. How bad would it be if the ice melts? Well, most of it's not good. Weather might look a little different around the world. As more of our sun's energy gets absorbed into the oceans, it would change the way air moves around the atmosphere in the Arctic and could even change the position of the jet stream. One study published in the journal Environmental Research Letters found that if the Arctic sea ice melts, England will probably get a little rainier. And a study published in the journal Nature suggests that the northern jet stream will shift southward, bringing cold polar air, making winters colder and snowier in North America. We could lose wildlife too, and as the ice melts at a rate of more than 86,000 square kilometers per year, wildlife is losing critical habitat. Lots of Arctic species like whales, walruses, and seals depend on the ice for protection and hunting. Some are already changing their feeding and migration patterns. Okay, I know what you really want to hear about. How will all this melting sink our cities? When talking about ice melting, it's important to make a distinction. Ice caps like the Arctic ice cap already sits on top of the water, so even if it melts while still sucking, it wouldn't contribute to sea level rise. But if you're worried about a future water world, you should be worried about ice sheets melting. Ice sheets sit on top of land and form when snow that falls during the winter doesn't melt. And with enough time and enough snow, these layers stack up and form a big, thick sheet. The two main ice sheets are the Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets, which together contain more than 99% of the fresh water on Earth. In the Antarctic, a large ice shelf that's existed for 12,000 years is on the brink of collapse. Another study published in the journal Science found that over the past 20 years, Antarctic's floating ice shelves shrank 18%, and this melting is speeding up. New research from Princeton University shows that it's melting faster than we thought. Researchers found that in Antarctica, ice melting increased by 6 billion tons per year each year during the 11-year period the researchers examined. Scientists believe that if these ice sheets melt, sea levels will rise, devastating coastal cities around the globe. According to a study published in the journal Climate Dynamics, if all the ice in the Greenland ice sheet melts, global sea levels would rise by about 24 feet. If all of Antarctica melts, sea levels would rise by 200 feet. The entire eastern seaboard of the US would be underwater and Florida would vanish. But that's a worst-case extreme scenario. But we should still be concerned about this trend. These icy regions heat up faster than the rest of the world. To get a sense of how the Earth is warming, it's important to keep an eye on the icy parts of the world. If the ice is melting, like a canary in a coal mine, it could signal a global warming trend. And speaking of, a recent study published in the journal Nature Climate Change found that it's a positive feedback loop. As the ice melts, climate change will get worse. The ice acts as a giant reflector, bouncing sunlight back into space. But if the ice melts, more of the sun's energy will be absorbed rather than reflected, heating up the Earth more, which in turn will melt more ice. It's kind of a vicious cycle. And one country in particular is hoping that the world acts on this problem soon. Check out this video from our sister channel Seeker on how the Maldives is dealing with rising sea levels.
The Maldives nation consists of around 1,200 little islands at the intersection of the Indian Ocean and the Arabian Sea. It's also the planet's lowest country. On average, its land is only about 5 feet above sea level.
Do you live on a coast? Are you worried about rising sea levels? Let us know down in the comments below, and keep coming back here to D News. We've got new videos every day of the week.
One